Hello and welcome to The Firm. On May 7th, almost 10 months after the government cracked down on NSCL, its founder Jignesh Shah was arrested by Mumbai Police's Economic Offences Wing. In these 10 months, Jignesh Shah has witnessed the decimation of his empire. NSCL shut down, leaving a 5,600 crore rupee hole and almost 13,000 aggrieved investors. Shah was declared as not fit and proper to be an investor in both the other exchanges that he has founded, MCX and MCX-SX. His main company, Financial Technologies or FTIL, that's the parent company of both these key exchanges and several other entities, is being forced by regulators to exit its 26% stake in MCX and over 5% stake in MCX-SX, including warrants. With Jignesh in jail, it's not clear how quickly the FTIL board, now being led by Venkatachari, will be able to move on these divestments. What is clear is that there are two different interest groups in this matter: those that lost money in the NSCL scam and FTIL shareholders, especially public shareholders whose investments in FTIL are slowly being withered away. Can both interests be protected? How? By government or court intervention? Well, to answer those questions, I have with me today Shiva Mandal of AZB, the lawyer representing brokers affected by the NSCL collapse, Jayesh Shah of Juriscorp, also representing NSCL brokers and other creditors, and in Delhi, Akila Agarwal of Amarchand. Akila advised the government-appointed board of Satyam, so she brings to this panel some crucial Satyam experience. Gentlemen, Akila, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of The Firm. Shiva, let me start first with you. What should happen now, given that Jignesh is in jail?
Well, I think the criminal process is a standalone process. I think the focus question before us is, frankly, which is the best way to recover funds for the investors who have lost. And I think the debate, just to rephrase it, are the assets of FT to be used for recovering the funds for the investors at NSCL? Is it the assets of NSCL itself, or is it the assets of the promoters of FT? Effectively, there are provisions in the Companies Act today where the government is well empowered to approach the CLB, the Company Law Board, to make an application seeking for attachment of assets of persons who are participated in a fraud, which is effectively under one of the schedules. Pending the investigation, it is important to show that interim reliefs, there's an attachment proceeding, which is pretty much what happened.
Whose assets do you attach? That's why I'm asking you.
So there is a schedule. So today the schedule...
No, who do you think? Whose assets do you think should be attached, given that you represent interested parties?
So I think it is not about my perception of this.
Legally speaking?
No, legally. So legally, as I said, legally it is the people who participate in the fraud, which at this stage is obviously all arrested individuals.
Right, 11 of them roughly, I think now.
All arrested individuals. It would also translate to some of the borrowers, because they have also, because of a fraud which involves complicity, which involves a conspiracy, it involves some of the borrowers who are the actual beneficiaries in a way, direct beneficiaries, because they are the ones who borrowed, and this is in the paid contracts. It would involve probably the key members of the board of NSCL.
Would it involve the assets of FTIL?
So here's the issue.
Is that your position?
Yeah, so here's the issue. The people who are on the board of NSCL, which was a wholly owned subsidiary of FTIL, were individuals who were nominated by FTIL. So when they acted on the board of NSCL, which was its wholly owned subsidiary of FTIL, they acted
on behalf of FTIL.
Yes, it is an attribution
principle.
principle.
Therefore, you say FTIL stands liable to pay off NSCL, yes. So those who made losses in NSCL.
Here is the proposition. It is not that FTIL is exclusively liable. It is FTIL and all other individuals, whether acting in their capacity as representative of FTIL or in their capacity as director.
So are you in favor of some sort of government supersession of the FTIL board?
I think the legal basis for supersession of the board at FTIL would involve that the affairs of FTIL have been conducted in a wrongful manner. And I think, if you ask me at this stage, there is not enough facts out there to demonstrate that.
Jayesh, should FTIL's assets be liable for paying off the dues of those who lost money in the NSCL collapse? That's one question. And my second question to you is the same as I put to Shiva. Do you think that the FTIL board should be superseded by the government at this point in time, as many other analysts and experts have been calling for?
I think even if it is proven that, there was fraud and whatnot, let's assume all of that, it still begs the issue that are we saying that FTIL set up NACL as not against as the individuals, but the corporate entity, a listed entity, set up NACL with the objective of perpetuating the fraud? That's a major intent out there we're talking about. If not, so then on what basis are we talking about going out after the assets of FTIL?
So you're saying we shouldn't go after the assets of FTIL?
Look at the contrary position. You are saying I should put the assets of FTIL into play. For what? Robbing Peter to pay Paul? Because the investors are vociferous lot or whatnot, or politically connected or whatnot? Because you're forgetting that FTIL also has its own set of stakeholders. Many of them have
How do you respond to Shiva's point that FTIL is the one that set up NSCL, and in a sense, therefore, FTIL should be responsible and liable for what went on at NSCL?
So that's why I asked that, are we saying that FTIL set up NSCL with the intent of perpetrating a fraud, even if fraud is proved?
That is the allegation, is the criminal complaint that has been filed before the EOW in Mumbai. That is the fulcrum of the case in the representative suit in the Bombay High Court. And that is the allegation in the 42-page unsigned or so-called statement of the former head
Anjani
of
Sinha.
NSCL, Anjani Sinha, which was presented before the court. That the sole motive of setting up NSCL was to conduct this particular form of business in what allegedly is said to be not the correct way.
Yeah, but if two directors of FTIL had that intent, are we saying that all of the board of FTIL had the intent? Because to attribute the intent of two individuals to a corporate entity as a whole, I think these are two different things.
Akila, lots of people over the last couple of days have raised similarities between Satyam and FTIL and have called for government intervention in this matter, government supersession of the FTIL board. Do you see any similarities between Satyam and this? Do you see any grounds for government intervention? Or do you see any grounds for, let's say, any kind of creative court intervention in this if the laws permit?
Yeah, one cannot deny that there are some similarities in both the cases, given that in Satyam there were fictitious salary accounts, fictitious customers, and convoluted transaction which finally resulted in siphoning of funds and even creation of fictitious balance sheets. In this case, what we hear from the observations and the reports that are in the newspapers, whether it's the PwC report or the earlier reports by Grant Thornton and the like, is that there is maybe or there is a case of fictitious warehouses, commodities not being there, transactions with related parties which are not proper. So there are similarities to that extent that yes, there is something fishy. It could be a fraud. There is somebody who has perpetrated injury to a number of stakeholders across various institutions. So there is a similarity there. But if you have to further examine the two situations or the two scenarios in Satyam and in this case, Satyam, the entire episode started with a confession, a public confession where somebody confessed fraud. So to that is slightly different here, because hearing the two gentlemen on the panel, there is obviously a lot of difference of opinion as to who is responsible and whether in fact there is fraud, an intention to commit injury, an intention to dupe investors, traders, borrowers, brokers and the like. So that is, I find, a key difference. But going back to your previous questions as to what could be done to safeguard the various interests, sometimes maybe conflicting interests of shareholders and stakeholders of, say FTIL, NSCL, and even to some extent MCX, I would say that each matter has to be looked at separately. It may not be possible to look at it together. So whether it is a lifting of the
Akila, you've raised,
or whether it
okay,
is
so if I understand correctly, you're saying that, while there may be similarities, the current case does not prove enough grounds for the government to step in. Is that what you're essentially saying?
Suppose, as I said, because of the fact that there are only allegations, Nothing has been proved yet. A number of people, various agencies are investigating this matter, whether it is the CBI, whether it is the Economic Offences Wing, or whether it's SFIO. There are people investigating it, but we haven't been told of the findings. We don't have, a stated fact on this matter yet. So
Yeah.
that will take time, which is not the case in Satyam.
Let me just take that point, Akhila, further. So, but in this case, you have a statement from the CEO, which is saying there were certain individuals who were perpetrators.
CEO of NSCL.
That's right, CEO of NSCL, who probably himself may
Can
be.
that be used to take over the board of FTIL?
I'm not yet concluded on that.
Okay.
So,
See, as far as taking over the board is concerned, that's something which needs to be initiated by FTIL shareholders. So that if they
Not necessarily.
perceive
Central government
Central
oppression,
government has
they
the powers to
perceive,
move suo moto.
yeah.
yeah, suo moto also, but we haven't heard anything from the FTIL shareholders.
I think what Akhila is
There are
trying to say is that it
institutions on
would be
FTI's
more
board.
effective for the FTIL shareholders to stand up and assert their right at this point in time if they wanted a revamped board, as opposed to expect the government to come in and
No, I
play
think- I
white
think-
knight
sorry,
in this
sorry,
situation.
Jayesh.
Within 2 days of the Raju's email coming out, the government moved. They didn't really wait for shareholders
That's
to
right.
demand, oh, you do something. The government moved on its own, period. Here, you have the CEO of NSEL making whatever statement he has made. He may have then retracted or whatnot. Doesn't matter. There is enough
Yeah,
material
well,
out there.
first he said, he was fully responsible. Now he's moved the blame onto Jignesh Shah. So I don't really know what part we should trust and how.
Right.
We haven't seen the full charge sheet, so I don't know.
But is there anywhere a statement being made, oh, the board of FTL as a whole was guilty of all this? Or if at all, whatever is emerging, it is focusing on specific
So you're
individuals.
saying there is no case for government supersession?
No, I'm on the contrary. There should be supersession for the simple reason to protect the interests of the other stakeholders. That's the consistency point which I raised earlier. If somebody or a group of people are not fit and proper for one segment of the market, how were they allowed to continue run
Okay.
a large listed
Okay.
company and
I get the point.
whatnot?
Yeah, okay. You've made that point. Akhila, you wanted to add something here.
It was also discussed that assets worth 5,000 crores have been
borrowers.
identified for
Yeah, so
attachment.
those were borrowers' assets.
So if there are sufficient assets available, there is no question of lifting the veil of NSCL and going on to the assets of FTIL.
Okay.
So the question of lifting the veil arises only when there are insufficient assets on the primary people concerned, such as NSCL. And on the second point on whether a person who's not fit and proper for purposes of FMC or SEBI regulations can be a director of a listed company, unfortunately the qualifications under the Companies Act are slightly different.
Yeah.
So, it may be very simplistic to say that somebody who's not fit and proper in under these SEBI and FMC regulations should not sit on the board of
Yeah,
any
fine.
company.
I agree with you on that.
that's
But
not the
Akhila,
case.
I have one question. What recourse do the investors of FTIL have? I mean, outside of, let's say, standing up and making some noise and saying, look, we can't allow our company to be frittered away or the assets of FTIL to be liable for the dues of NSCL. What can they do? What should they be doing at this point in time? Because
See,
that's
what-
the better bet than expecting the government to step in.
Yeah, what would be ideal is for the institutional investors of FTIL to step up, because here is a situation where the key person is in police custody. There is a board comprising of I think 5 people. One is is in police custody, and there are 4 people left running the operations, out of which only 2 are independent. It would be ideal for the institutional investors of FTIL to be more active. Maybe the board could be reconstituted to have more representations from all stakeholders, whether it is the institutions or the small shareholders. And one need not wait for the government to take suo moto action, or one need not even wait to move the government. The company, based on its own advisors, could run a transparent shop.
It's nice to say, Menka, sorry, we're not in a forum to say what they should be doing. What is the exact provision under which they do? So only shareholders with more than 10% have the legal ability to approach a company law board.
Yeah.
And there
Now-
are institutional investors, and the question is, why would they want to spend the time?
But they do
and
not
money
have the
doing-
ability.
No, even if they had, why would they want to spend the time and
So-
money
Because,
doing
like,
it?
for instance, Blackstone has 7% invested in this company. Either you watch your 7%,
is Blackstone in the
get
business of-
destroyed, or you do something about it and stand up for the money that you've
Sorry,
put into
can
this
we,
company,
can we just, again, as I said, calibrate it. It's one thing to speak about this over coffee. It's another thing to talk about it in the strict sense of the law.
I get it. Okay.
Happened
And from a
before.
practical
It's not
perspective.
unknown.
It can only
has
happen.
happened before, where a 7% 7% shareholders have been extremely active in a number of instances. Even recently, we have seen mergers being taken into the
Yeah, 100 members. You have to get 100 members.
Activism.
Yeah, quite right. Akila, you have to have 100 shareholders or 10%.
Under oppression
Yes,
and
my
mismanagement.
point is slightly different. One is the legal recourse. One is the legal recourse of oppression and mismanagement, and other is simply an active shareholder body spearheaded by institutions. Everything need not be through a process of going to a court of law.
And
It
while
can
that
be
sounds
even,
like the more appropriate thing to
otherwise.
do, the honest truth is that 22% of that 54% public shareholding is FIIs. And I know that it's most unlikely that any of these FIIs are
That
really
brings
going to step in
but that
and
brings
do
to
anything about
Jayesh's
this
point.
company.
How do you nullify the 45% vote? So we're talking we're talking.
So you're saying it's not effective. Akila disagrees with you. I'm
No,
saying.
as a concept, it is correct.
So I'm
but
going to
in
throw one
prac-
last question here, which is that
Can
is
I
there,
just deal with
yeah,
one earlier
sure.
point which Akila made? If the assets are not sufficient, then lift the corporate veil. I really disagree with that because I think
correct.
I said this earlier. You can't go about setting the principle of robbing Peter to pay Paul. FTIL has its own stakeholders.
No,
Look at this.
to clarify,
Akila, let me. I'm making a bigger point, so maybe we are both on the same page then. As it is, doing business in India is very difficult. We have a notorious reputation. Now we are going to add to that to say that when you are dealing, whether as an Indian or a foreigner, you're dealing with an Indian company, you need to heighten your diligence whether the Indian company is perpetuating a fraud in some other part of the business
And
area.
becomes therefore responsible for the liabilities that come up
Yeah,
there.
so I'm as a stakeholder, whether as a shareholder or as a creditor.
So you're saying under no circumstances can the FTIL assets be,
unless you're going to
held to
unless
ransom
it is
by
being,
NSCL.
it is going to be shown that FTL as a corporate entity had the intent
Got
of
it.
perpetuating all this and not just the individual promoters or a couple of individuals who did this.
My third question is this, right? The Bombay High Court is also involved in this whole process because of a representative suit and several other civil matters that I'm told are, somewhere in the system. Now, is there any space within the law that permits for the court to say, look, I can recognize there are two conflicting interest groups here. Can the court appoint, let's say, a special administrator? And I'm drawing a very sort of rough comparison with what they do in winding ups, right? A special administrator who ensures that the assets of FTIL are not frittered away in this entire nonsense and that they are maintained. For instance, the MCX stake sale that's supposed to happen anytime soon and the money that will come from there. And that money is protected so that whether it's the NSCL, those who lost in the NSCL scam or it's the FTIL shareholders, those interests are almost equally protected.
That is exactly one of the reliefs in the representative suit sought, is to have administrators appointed to take possession of any asset disposals.
And
For
there was some
example,
informal
asset
conversations
disposals.
before it got
Of
adjourned to
asset
June.
disposals.
asset disposal. To give an example, for example, the sale of the Singapore exchange, the
Right.
approximately $120 million came, that was not allowed to be disbursed to the lenders.
No, it was used to pay back a bond issue, I think.
Yeah, but a large portion of that is trapped because pending the High Court order. Who's asked for
And the
status
irony
quo.
there is that the money was raised actually to make those offshore investments. So it's not the case that FTL diverted money from NSCL and built up these
Okay,
stakes.
but I don't want to get into all that. And what I'm interested in is that who's supposed to take action in this? Is it the shareholders of FTIL? Is it the government? Or is it the court?
It should have been the government. They could have taken much more action much earlier in time.
As Jayesh rightly says, it is the government who had the first responsibility. It happens in the entire setup we have.
Are you saying that in every single case, for instance, where a bunch of CEOs in the 2G scam end up in jail? Now, does that mean that the government should step in and say, look, I know there's clearly some fraud that's gone on here, so
Absolutely
we
not.
should
There's
take
no
over your
fraud.
company and run
There's
it?
no fraud. There's no fraud in a company. There's a difference between fraud in a company versus a fraud against the government. So, Manika, let's just not use 2G as an example here. There's no relevance here. The relevance we're talking here is there's a fraud in a corporate. When there's a fraud in a corporate, there are certain situations in which the government is empowered to take control. There are certain provisions which has been used in the past when persons who have participated in a fraud. Our law in 1956, the law of 1956 recognized the ability of a government to attach those
Got it.
assets.
So government supersession, Akila, government supersession
I think
or
your,
active shareholders?
No, I think your original question was whether one government can take over and take care of the interests of all stakeholders, conflicting interests of all people concerned in this big mess. my view in that would be it's really not possible given the way our laws are drafted. So government supervision of the board could happen, but that's clearly just the oppression and mismanagement related matter. But whether it's an income tax matter, or whether it is a prevention of money laundering matter, or if it is some other matters like the SEBI violations of the individual guidelines of FMC and SEBI, all of them unfortunately cannot be clubbed together.
So
even
how
in
do you
Satyam
resolve
case,
this?
if you
How
look-
do you resolve this in the best interests of both those who lost money in NSCL as well as the existing shareholders of FTIL?
I think there is no simplistic solution to resolve this, because the law has to take its course, unfortunately, and it is going to be a time-consuming process unless people find settlement or other quicker solutions before the entire process is complete.
I have a concern that
See, what
what
is
if
still,
what happens if
you know-
Akila, just one point, if the application of MPIDC is struck down by the courts down the line.
Yeah, well,
saying-
it does seem that Jignesh's team is going to challenge that, right?
So
Because at this point in
wouldn't be
time, I think they're
surprised.
most...
I wouldn't bet on the government succeeding that MPIDC is applicable. So, because, and the question I'm asking here is that we are going after quick fixes to show that we are taking action, and not necessarily that the right action is being taken. So, there's a fundamental issue that whether
I would
MPIDC
disagree
is
that
really
there have
applicable
been
here.
quick fixes.
No, application, use
I
of
would really
MPIDC to
disagree.
attach assets, I'm worried about that. I would rather go after these very assets of the borrowers, associates and whatnot in the context of fraud, money laundering and whatever else. But using only MPIDC, I have my concerns.
Is there any scope here for any kind of creative solution, or do we have to just wait and watch for all the legal processes to run their due course and maybe see the value of whatever is left in this group erode?
I think it's very simple. There are 3 steps that are required to solve this whole mess.
Okay, lovely.
First, make an application before the CLB, the Company Law Board. The central government makes an application on prima facie facts, attach assets of promoters. 2, you've got when you attach assets, you can suspend voting rights
Of the promoter group
of
in
the
FTIL.
promoter groups, replace the board, get a constituent incumbent professional management, or maybe a new corporate group to take over FT.
A la Satyam Tech Mahindra.
That's right.
Yeah.
And 3, use MPID to attach the assets of borrowers and any other criminal laws. I'm not commenting on whether MPID is the right law. There's any other. Criminal law generally allows you attachment, be it the PMLA, the CRPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, or MPID. So you've got a whole bunch of attached assets,
Promoters and borrowers.
promoters and borrowers,
And a whole new management for FTIL.
FTIL, and then you have a trial that takes its usual, 24 months on expedited ways. You can have a special court, and whatever is the outcome, use the proceeds to repay or not repay investors.
All right, it's
So
been
why
5
not apply
years.
the
It's been
CLB
5 years
process to
since
the
Ramalinga Raju
borrowers?
confessed,
Yes.
and that trial has still not come to a conclusion as yet, gentlemen. So we can only hope for a speedy solution.
But you have the assets.
And for the implementation of Shiva's 3-point plan. Shiva, Jayesh, and Akila, thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. With that, we're going to wrap up this edition of The Firm. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next week.